So good morning and welcome to Manitoba Agriculture Crop Talk webinar. If you have any questions today, please type them into the Q&A icon located in the bottom toolbar of the Zoom program. We will answer them at the end of each presentation. This webinar is being recorded and you will receive a link to the recording. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie. I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 3rd edition of Crop Talk. And today we've mentioned the Environmental Farm Plan program pretty much every time on Crop Talk as a link of where you could go and complete your actual plan. But I thought today it would be good to get Jewel Mazur to come on. Jewel works with the program. She is involved in it basically that's a lot of her job, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get I guess someone in the know to come in and just talk about the program, talk about how it's going, maybe even talk about some of the projects. But I think because of the number of projects, we'll maybe have that for another day, but Joel talk about that as well. And then from there, we'll go to our crop scouting panel. And we've had a few questions come in as we're getting closer to seeding, and we actually have a few guys in the field. So I guess with that, I will let Jewel take over the screen and let's talk a little bit about the Environmental Farm Plan program.
Thanks, Lionel. I'll just wait to make sure that everybody can see my screen. If you could let me know.
It's there, Jewel.
Okay. So thanks for having me on today and welcome to everybody. I'm going to talk about, like Lionel said, the Environmental Farm Plan, and we've recently moved online. Not that recently, I guess, in October of 22. We moved everything online, so there's no more workshops. And I'm also going to talk about, very briefly, the funding programs that have recently been announced for environmental BMPs, and then give you some other resources that you are able to use to find out more information. But we're going to start first with website navigation. And I'm not going to go online today, but I do have screenshots of everything. And so some of this might be redundant for you. But basically, if you need to look for anything, the best way to go about it is just Google Manitoba Agriculture. And then this is going to come up on your screen. And you want to hit the first link there, double click on it. And if you want to make this a place that you want to come back to often, at the top right-hand side of your screen, there's going to be a star with a little plus sign, and you can add that to your favorites and then go back to your favorites and just click on it to get straight to our homepage for agriculture. So this is what our homepage looks like. And I just want to point out a few things. Some of you may be super familiar with this, but for those that aren't, I just want to go through where you can search. Of course, these are the search tools here. And then right below our minister is where you can sign up for our newsletter if you don't have that coming to your inbox. So that's the Growing Manitoba Agriculture newsletter. And if you are getting that, you will be updated on everything that is current with agriculture, including the programming and the deadlines and so forth. But your best friend here is the quick links, which is just, again, highlighted underneath the picture of the minister. And under the quick links menu is pretty much everything that you need. I know that Laurie has been directing producers to the very first link, funding. And when you click on that link, this is what comes up on your very left-hand side here, all the different funding available. Of course, we have AgriMaps. The Environmental Farm Plan is about halfway down. And then at the very bottom, you will see the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership. And that is where you would access all the BMP funding. You can also access it if you just go through funding, and then it is your first link that would come up. So about the environmental farm plan, I don't know how much you all know about it, but of course it's been around since 2004. It's an assessment of your own farm or ranch. And then once you've completed it, you receive a statement of completion, and that certificate is valid for 5 years, upon which time you need to renew it. So for all environmental BMP program funding, it is required. It's not required at the time of application, but it is required when you submit your claim forms. So you can go ahead and apply for any of the BMP funding. If you're approved, you get an approval letter, and you can start your projects as soon as you want. It's just that your funding won't be guaranteed, but all invoices are honored from April 1st, 2023 on. And just back to the environmental farm plan, we've gone completely electronic as of October of 2022. So everything can be completed online. And this is the address that we're at. You can also access it through Manitoba Agriculture's homepage. Go to environmental farm plan, and this is what comes up. And you just want to click on the online, and then you're leaving the government site and going into the actual Manitoba online EFP, which is housed by Keystone Ag Producers for confidentiality purposes. You can also click on a little link at the bottom here on my screen that says sneak peek and see how the online works. It's a really concise, easy way to complete your farm plan, and you can go on and just play around a little bit. If you just indicate your farm type as post-secondary, then none of the information is housed, and it's not part of our statistics, so you can like play around with it and whatnot. And then when you're ready to actually go through your farm plan, you would enter your actual farm type. So whether you're a crop producer or a livestock producer or a mixed farmer, and then it populates for you direct questions that are related to your farm. So when you get to Manitoba EFP, this is what the screen looks like. And then when you want to create a farm plan, you get these user details that come up. And the only little tricky part about entering the system is the verification code. So once you enter your email address, you want to click send verification code, and then it will populate a verification code to your email. Check your email, you'll get the code, and then the next screen that pops up gives you a prompt to put the code in there. Then you just choose a password for yourself and click the terms of use and create. And everything is prompted for you from there on in. I don't have anything further in terms of screenshots for that, but you can certainly go on and see for yourself. So some of the new features of the online EFP are that you can work on your EFP at any time from anywhere, provided that you have internet access. It automatically saves your information, so you can do 15 minutes of work. It automatically saves, you exit the system, come back to it, and you're going to pick up exactly where you left off. There are quite a few less questions in it compared to the workbook. And like I said before, it's tailored to your farm. It also meets a variety of sustainability standards. So if you're a dairy farmer or selling potatoes to McCain or field peas to Roquette, those standards are all met within the system as long as you populate it based on some questions at the very beginning. There's no review meeting required. So this is really handy. Once you've completed your farm plan, you just press submit and it automatically goes to a reviewer who will then, within, I would say, a week or less, check your farm plan, go through it. If they have any questions, they email you. If not, you'll just get a notice that it's been approved and you can go back into the system and download your statement of completion. So it's very simple and a lot less paperwork. And when it comes time for you to renew your farm plan in 5 years, it's really easy and convenient because it's already got a record of what you have submitted in the 5 years prior, and you just update it as necessary. So a much more streamlined system than we've been used to in the last few years. I just downloaded some stats from the online EFP this morning. And so right now we've got 144 workbooks in progress. We have 112 that are new and 80 producers that are renewing their workbook. And the acres assessed, it also gives us that automatically. And we've had most of the producers that have gone through the system since October, about 70% of them have completed their EFP and received their statement of completion. So that's really good news. We've never had that success in the past with the workbook method. And then we also get a few other stats that are populated, like workbooks that are submitted by primary industries. So you can see that a lot of beef producers have gone through the online. These are all statistics just from October of 2022, when the online system came into fruition. And not far behind are crop producers, and then dairy, and then pig producers. And then it's broken down by color. So you can see the number of beef producers in green are new, and renewed are in the gold. So a lot more new producers than renewals in the online system, it seems. I'm going to just briefly go over the new Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership. It's the new agriculture framework agreement that's just been released, and I'm sure you've heard about it in the news or from other producers. So it is in effect from April 1st of 2023 to March 31st of 2028. So a 5-year agreement. The total is 3.5 million. And there's a new pot of money every year. And it is, of course, the provincial, territorial, federal framework. And the climate change and environment priority area is the part of this framework that supports the agricultural sector. And the focus for this framework is reducing greenhouse gas emissions, adapting to climate change, and of course, protecting the long-term viability of the sector and seizing economic opportunities. So a lot of you may be familiar with the CAP, the CAP, which was the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. This new one is called or referred to as SCAP, or the Sustainable CAP. And it, of course, is all new and new BMPs as well. So I want to just review the different environmental BMP programs. So if you hear like the acronyms in the news and as we talk about them, you'll know exactly what that means. So there are 3 environmental BMP programs under SCAP. The first one is called Sustainable Agriculture Manitoba, or SAM. And it is the program that is directed to farmers. Also, commercial manure applicators and custom pesticide applicators are eligible to apply under SAM. And these are like your regular BMPs, and they're divided into 3 types. We have some cropland BMPs, manure and livestock, and water BMPs. And I'll go into them a little bit more shortly. The second program available is the Resilient Agriculture Landscapes Program, or RELP. And the first stream is carbon sequestration and grassland resilience. And there's a couple of BMPs there as well. It's just a completely different program. We've tried not to overlap the different types of BMPs offered, but for RELP, eligible clients are farmers that are outside watershed districts, the Association of Manitoba Community Pastures, Ag Crown Land Forage leaseholders, and Indigenous managed lands. And I'll go through the different BMPs offered under that. And then another stream of RELP is watershed resilience. And this is the program where only the watershed districts can apply. And then they develop programming from there with those monies. So some pasture-based livestock BMPs, agroforestry, and water BMPs are offered under RELP watershed resilience. But I don't even really want you to consider this one. That I shouldn't say that. I do want you to consider it, but because only the watershed districts are available to apply to it, and it's actually closed already, it's not something that you will be concerned about with applying to as a producer. What you do want to do, though, is check with your local watershed district to see what the programming is offered under that. You do require an EFP to access any of the programming through the watershed district. So just a little bit more detail about SAM. So there's actually 4 categories of BMPs. The 1000 series, as we're referring to it, are the cropland management BMPs. 2000s are manure and livestock management BMPs. The 3000s are 2 BMPs focused on energy efficiency, but these are not going to be offered until year 2 of the framework. So they're not available this year. They will be available in the 2024-25 year. And then the 4000 series are the water management BMPs. So that's how they're divided out. There's 7 BMPs under each of those 3 categories for this year. And these are the cropland management BMPs. I'm not going to go into any detail with these, but for sure, go onto the website and there's more detail on the website. It's that we just don't have enough time to get into each of them, but I'll just name them off. So we have reduced tillage intensity, low disturbance placement of seed and fertilizer, preventing soil compaction, reduced pesticide use. And Lionel was just telling me there were a few tweets about this one in particular very recently. The 1500 is soil landscape restoration, perennial cover for sensitive lands, and finally, hazardous products storage. And if anybody is interested in the hazardous product storage, you can feel free to contact me as I'm the lead on that one. For all the SAM projects, there's a year that you have to complete them, so they must be completed by March 31st, 2024. The 2000 series, the manure and livestock management BMPs, we have enhanced feed efficiency, improved manure application, solid liquid separation of manure, improved manure transport, in-barn air quality treatment, limiting thermal stress on livestock, and composting. And you can see that the cost shares and the funding cap for each of those are listed. But I'm sure it's just a bunch of gobbledygook for you right now, hearing all these terms thrown at you. Do check them out for more detail on the website. And then the 3000s would be the energy efficiency, which aren't offered this year. The 4,000s are water management BMPs, and we have irrigation efficiency, fertigation, drainage water management, water quality, runoff control, water use efficiency, and water supply. And just a note to this water supply one, this is the one that is replacing the 503 that was under CAP for water development. So dugouts, wells, watering systems, and so forth. So the other stream of funding that's available to producers is the Manitoba Resilient Agriculture Landscape Program, or RALP. And like I mentioned before, there's kind of two streams. Watershed resilience is the one where watershed districts apply and have programming for, and that's directly through your watershed district. And then the one available for producers to apply is called Carbon Sequestration and Grassland Resilience. And you can see, of course, it's titled with the priority areas in mind for this framework, focusing on climate change. So watershed resilience through the watershed districts is aiming it to increase environmental resiliency by the increased adoption of on-farm practices that enhance ecological goods and services. So these are the BMPs that would be available through your watershed district if they've applied and have been approved for funding. So there's water retention and runoff management, wetland restoration and enhancement, riparian area enhancement, natural upland area rejuvenation and enhancement, some agroforestry BMPs, and grasslands and grazing management. And so you do have to contact your local watershed district, and you can see that all of these BMPs are directed more towards the public good rather than the private benefit of a producer because of the ecological goods and services benefits. Now, the RALP BMPs that you might be interested in, and I'm not going to go into any detail, but there are two different BMPs. One is focused on agroforestry, funding to support the establishment of agroforestry projects and simplify their maintenance. So shelter belts, blocks of forest. And then the other BMP is to do with grasslands and grazing management, and basically supporting the enhancement of grasslands and strategies to improve grazing management. So applications are accepted right now for the watershed resilience. As I mentioned before, this was specifically for watershed districts. That has closed already, so that's in place. So your watershed districts should be able to tell you what's available if you contact them. For producers to apply, the RALP is open now, and applications will be accepted until the end of the day on June 12th, 2023. For the SAM, the Sustainable Agriculture Manitoba, that's the three different categories of BMPs: the cropland management, livestock and manure management, and water management. So there's 21 BMPs there to choose from. And that is open now and will close June 13th of 2023. When you're applying for the BMPs, you need to go on to our website and then choose the SCAP. And at the bottom of each of the pages on the Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership, you'll see this. And this is just a link to the terms and conditions of the program. There's the program guide, which you'll want to read before you apply. So it indicates what is eligible and what's not eligible. And then there's an applicant information form. And that is something you have to complete before you actually apply. It's just specific information to do with yourself to have on file. And then the application worksheet is your actual BMP application. So these two on the bottom are the ones that you want to be filling out and submitting. Just a reminder that any money you receive through these funding programs mentioned today has to be reported as taxable income. For further information, we have a dedicated client service staff that are answering a funding toll-free line. So this is different from our general inquiries line, and the number is there on the screen, and I'll just leave that up. All your applications will go to the email address there, agriculture@gov.mb.ca. You can also inquire at that address if you have any questions. And then, like I mentioned at the very beginning, sign up for the Growing Manitoba Agriculture newsletter. If you haven't already, that is a quick link on our homepage. And you will always be apprised of all everything going on that's current, deadlines, new programming, and so forth. So that's all I have for today. I'm just going to leave this slide up and I'll hand it over to Lionel for questions.
Okay, perfect. We've got some questions coming in, and I'll try to get them kind of in the order as they've come in. One question to start it off, though, is there is different kind of leads for each of the BMPs?
Yes, there is. Yep.
Okay, so they all kind of handle applications as they come in, and you mentioned you're the lead for which one again, was it?
The hazardous
Right,
products,
okay,
BMP.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So general questions go to the toll-free line. If they're more specific or technical, the toll-free line will then hand them over to the BMP lead.
Okay, good. Okay, well, here's another question. Okay, can you comment on, this is BMP 1200, and that in the notes, it says the intention behind BMP categories 1202 and 1203 is an overall reduction in fertilizer application rates. Reduction compared, I guess the question is reduction compared to what? I thought the message was always to reduce nitrous oxide emissions and not reduction in fertilizer rates.
Okay, let me just go back to those BMPs. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. That's perfect.
To
Yeah.
get everyone dizzy, but okay, you said 1202 and 1203. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So the 1200 series, low disturbance placement of seed and fertilizer. I'm not going to answer any technical questions today because I am not the subject matter expert on this, but I can certainly follow up with whoever needs, if we want to do it by email, Lionel, or I can hand off to the lead for BMP 1200.
Okay.
I'd prefer to do that way and not get into too much detail here today.
Perfect. I kind of thought that's what, when you had mentioned there was different leads and different people would have more, I guess, technical work into these different projects to answer some of those questions. You'll leave your email address up, if you can go back to your screen, and I can maybe just get this producer to grab your email address, and then they can send it to you, and you can kind of deal with that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It's not up on the screen.
Oh, okay.
But
it's Lori here, guys. I'm just going to interrupt for just a brief second. What I can do is I have the list of leads for that, and I can send this off to the person who asked the question. No worries.
Yeah, or you could include actually the list with the, if it's okay, include the list with the recorded webinar email.
You bet.
Okay. Next question. Any indication on what turnaround time will be for approvals?
Not really. As soon as possible. The problem with the approvals going out is once the applications come in, we process them fairly quickly. but they need to go through 2 other stages before producers actually get their approval letters or decline letters in some cases. And those 2 other stages are really out of our control. So it's really hard to predict, but certainly I would say by July, for sure, producers should be hearing something.
Okay, I guess maybe what this producer might be thinking then is that if it's not approved till July, if it's something regarding perennial covers, I'll say they might not be able to get that done till the following spring, right?
Yeah, actually, if Marla's on, I wonder if she could maybe comment on that.
I am here. Yes. What was, sorry, what was the direct question?
The direct question was any indication on turnaround time for approvals, and I guess what probably with the question, or the next question is going to be, well, if I don't get approved till July, I might not be able to get my forage established until the following year. And if the deadline is March of 2024, that'll be after the deadline to complete the project.
Yeah, so what has been done, and I can't necessarily speak to what we're doing this year. I would have to confirm this. So another thing that maybe could be confirmed if we have like a Q&A and an FAQ, I can check with our team, like the main leads, what has been done in the past in these specific cases. Especially in the first year, it always takes us a little bit to get that new program announced, and so we start a little later, whereas in future years things get processed a little earlier because we take in applications well in advance of, say, an April 1 start date. So as long as nothing has been purchased prior to April 1, so I do know that the terms and conditions does indicate something along the lines of no purchases could be made prior to April 1 of 2023. So before the program was basically, or the new fiscal year has started. We've been able to, if you keep all of those receipts, even if you have made a decision to start a project or begin a project, we're allowed to, after getting an approval, to allow those to be a claimable activity. The one thing that a farmer or a land manager just needs to know is if you're going into those situations, you're choosing to complete a project without knowing for sure whether or not you've been approved. So it doesn't guarantee approval just because you've started a project, but just so that you're aware that if you were going to be doing something kind of anyway, that shouldn't, hopefully does not actually discount you from being approvable in terms of your project. We can confirm that, but that is just going based on what we have been able to do in the past. And I don't know, Jewel, if you have any other knowledge on that.
I don't, but what I do know is exactly consistent with what you've said, Marla. Invoices will be retroactive to April 1st, 2023, and your funding isn't guaranteed, but certainly if it's something that you're planning to do anyway, go ahead and apply, and you may need to be paying for that on your own if your application isn't approved. But provided you, what I would say is talk with the BMP leads if you're trying to submit a good application, and you'll have a better chance of being approved.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good if you have a chance to reach out to us in advance. It does we can give you some extra, not necessarily extra kind of information, but sometimes you can just clear a few things or ask a few questions of us, and then it's clearer for you when you're filling in your application. For sure, that does benefit.
Okay, great, guys. And while the 1-800 number's there and on the screen now, and so is our email address. So if you need to get a hold and want to get a hold of leads, I'm sure you could probably find the process through those two to get a hold of them as well. Next question, is there a limit to the amount of money an individual can receive?
Currently, there is no program cap, but there are caps for each of the BMP categories.
Okay. are the programs linked to other groups like the Canola Council? And they mentioned watershed districts. So I guess probably wondering, I guess, if you applied for one project, say under the Canola Council for our program, is it linked to this program if the BMPs are similar?
You can apply to more than one program, but you have to declare that as you apply and where else your funding is coming from, just so that we don't have the overlap. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think so. I think they were wondering if, because there was some about seed place fertilizer, and I think both programs or both groups have the same similar type projects. So they're probably thinking, the same thing. Can I apply for funding under both of them?
Right. You can apply for funding under both, but you have to declare what you've received or what you're applying for through the other program. And then
Okay.
it will be determined from there. There won't be any double dipping, basically. So
Okay. I think that's where the question was kind of going, but
yeah,
okay, yeah.
clearly that wouldn't be proper. So and through both programs, you are subject to be audited. So
Okay.
be honest, people.
And I guess the last one, the question was, is there lots of money available, or will the funding run out from one year to the next?
No, I think I mentioned at the beginning, there's a separate pot of funding for each year. And none of the BMP applications are first come, first serve. So you don't have to worry about getting them in ASAP, but do try well before the deadline.
Perfect. Okay, well, that's the questions that I've received and the questions that have come on the question and answer. So that was great, Jewel. Lots of good information. I think what we should probably plan on doing is maybe getting another day of going through some of the projects and going through maybe just some of them that are maybe the just go through some of the projects, I should say, and go through a little bit more in depth on them. I think there's a lot of good projects. I just got looking at it the other day, actually, and I was that's why I wanted to have you on, because I thought there was a lot of good projects that producers need to be aware of.
Yeah, there's definitely a great selection for this framework. And maybe what we could do in a future crop talk or something else is focus on, for example, the cropland management BMP series, and maybe have some of the subject matter experts on there so that they can ask more of the technical questions that come up.
That would be great.
Okay, thanks for
Good.
having
Okay.
me.
Well, thanks, Jewel. And I don't know if you're going to be leaving right away or not, but if you had time, if you wanted to hold on for a few more minutes in case something comes in before the end of the day here, I could still ask you a question. That would be good.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be staying on.
Great. Thanks, Jewel. Okay, I'm just going to bring up my screen. And yeah, so we went through the environmental farm plan, now to the crop scouting panel. And today we've had a few questions come in over the past week, and I think probably because peas are some of the earlier crops that get planted. There was a few questions coming in about peas, and so I thought I'd get Dennis Lang to come on and maybe address a few of these. Dennis, one of the questions that comes in, it was a producer that's going to be seeding his peas, and he wanted to know about seed place phosphate and potash with his peas. I guess looking at the safe rate, he did hear that there's you can go too high, and he actually didn't realize that. And then, do soil temperatures have an effect on the amount of he can apply? And then determining seeding rates in peas, what factors should he include? He said that he's looking at his canola seed bag now, and there's a whole bunch of factors in determining seeding rates, and he should he be doing the same thing and looking at his peas when he goes to plant his peas. And then And then the last one part of his questions was how long does it take for nodules to develop to start producing nitrogen, and what soil temperatures are needed to get the nodulation started. So quite a few questions there, Dennis. I'll let you take it away, and if you miss one, I'll come back to it and get you to answer it.
Okay, thanks, Lionel. So I guess we'll start off with the safe rate of seed place phosphate and potash. So the factors you need to consider when you're looking at putting, phosphates. We'll start with phosphate down with the seed. Is peas and any pulse crop can be very sensitive to the salts. So you have to be very aware of your soil type, and also moisture conditions play a big role in the amount you can put down. So if you look at a clay soil, and also the other factors to consider is, if you're putting your seed down with the seed row, your seed is basically right, or the fertilizer is right by the seed. So if we use this example, and let's say we're using a 9-inch row spacing, and let's say we can tolerate about a 5% stand loss on a clay soil, you can actually put down roughly about 24 pounds of product is what you're looking at for phosphate. So it's really not a whole lot that you can actually put down when you're looking at on a clay soil, and mainly because of the potential for burn. So the more moisture you can have on, and that's going to be on a moist year, so a year like we're having this year. If you're on the drier year in that clay soil, you're only looking at about 12 pounds. Now, if you happen to change and go to more of a sandier soil, well, that's a different story again. So on a sandy soil, you're looking only about 16 pounds of product with the seed. That gets you about 9 pounds of phosphorus. And even on a moist year like this, so it can be very sensitive to that. For potash, if you're going like a 0060 on a clay soil, using those same terms on a clay soil, with you're only looking at about actually 13 pounds of product on a clay soil with really good moisture. And when it gets really dry, that on a sandy soil, you're only looking at about 8.7 pounds. So you're really only looking, of actual product or actual potash you're putting down. You're only looking at on a clay soil about just over 7 pounds. So you have to be very aware of that. Now, on years like this, when we have good soil moisture, sometimes, on the phosphate side, I really wouldn't be worried about the 20 pounds or 24 pounds, because I think you're going to be fine. Some growers have even pushed a little higher than that, but it all depends on those type of conditions. So that's kind of the starting point. Soil temperatures, it's more moisture that really affects it more than soil temperatures. That would be of a concern. But this year we have pretty good moisture, so I wouldn't expect any fertilizer burn this year based on the kind of moisture that we have. The second question that we have here on determining seeding rate in peas and what factors should be included. We're going to try a little something here. Manitoba Agriculture has a really good seed calculator that they have on their website. So if you Google Manitoba cost of production and look under the crop section, you will find what you're looking for there. But I'm just going to share my screen here, and we're just going to go yes, and we're going to pick this one here and share. Okay, so Lionel, are you now seeing the seeding rate calculator?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, so along the top here, these are the factors that you're going to be able to change as a producer: acres, price per bushel, unit, pounds per bushel. The ones that are most concerned with is seed germination, seed weight, and seed survivability, as well as your plant stand. Those are the numbers that you need to change. So in this example here, when you pull up this calculator, you can go into this top menu, pick the crop that you want. We chose peas here. I'm going to leave the price per bushel the same. Prices probably have come down since then, but I'm not going to change it for this example. So let's say, for example, your germination is 95%, your seed weight is 220, and you're putting 90% survivability, that will calculate out to and your plant stand about 8 plants per square foot. You look at the second row down, what you'll see, the seeding rate now, based on that information, is going to be 197 pounds per acre. Per bushel, it's 3.3 bushels per acre. That's based on the seed size. And it tells you how much seed is required and then the cost for that. And you can also in here change you also calculate the seeds per pound in this situation. So let's say, for example, that your germination is 90%. Instead of 95, how does that change? So we bring that down to 90%. Now that's going to you're going to have to add in more seed to get the same amount of plants per acre, that eight plants per square foot. So the big things to concern with is your seed size, because if we change seed size, and let's say we go up to 240, go the other way here, and we can actually just type it in 240. Okay, and we hit enter. And now that's going to change all those calculations again. So now you're up to a seeding rate of 227. Whoops, 227, 3.8 bushels per acre, and it tells you how much seed you're requiring there. So this is a really good exercise to walk through, because in some cases, the seed survivability is something else to consider as well. So even though your germination is 90%, we all know that you're not going to get the full stand that you that if you just use the germination, there's always going to be some mortality loss. So if you were to drop that, if your let's say your equipment, or let's say the seed is very dry and you expect maybe only 85% survivability at 90% term, or let's say 85%. So now your seeding rate dramatically goes up to 241 pounds per acre. So those are the factors to kind of consider, looking at germination, looking at seed weight, and looking at survivability. Factoring those in, assuming that you're targeting 8 plants per square foot, and that target plant is what you want left. That's not what you're starting with. That's what you want left. So with that being said, those are some of the factors that you need to really look at for that. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to that main slide again, Lionel. And if you want to put that screen back up again, please. Okay. And how long does it take for nodules to develop? Well, some of the data suggests that you could start looking for nodulation even 14 days after emergence. But where it really becomes critical is in that 6 to 9 node stage, because that's what's going to help feed the plant. It's nice to check it earlier than that, just to see if you could do good, or just to make sure you do have good nodulation. And it can start as early as, like I say, 14 days after emergence. But most growers will tend to wait a little bit, and maybe check it sometimes. If you do see some abnormal yellowing in the field, check your nodulation then. But those are the factors. How long does nodules take to develop? Well, like I say, they start early. Try to monitor it at that 6 to 9 node stage. Looking at to make sure those nodules are functioning, making sure that when you cut them open, they're nice and pink inside. The number of nodules really doesn't really matter as long as there's nodules there and they're functioning. With peas, you usually have all these clusters, so it's usually not too much of a problem. Soybeans are always a little different. Sometimes you'll have lower amounts of soybean nodules on there, but for soybeans, it's anything over 10 is more than sufficient. And for peas, generally you'll have way more than 10 on there, but they have to be functioning, so it should be nice and pink inside there. And as far as soil temperatures, when they need to start, once the plant starts growing, peas will start growing much earlier than other crops like soybeans, for example. So 4 to 5 degrees for germination, and by the time the summer rolls around, usually it's not a problem with nodulation if you have good moisture. So with that, I think that covers my questions.
Yeah, actually, just one more follow-up. Survivability, when you were on that program there, what would you use for survivability? I know when I was talking to the producer, he had mentioned that for the canola, the variability between in survivability is quite a bit. And what's a safe percentage to use?
I would like to say, using 85% survivability. It could be higher if the pea seed lot is very dry. What I tend to tell growers is that if you are concerned, do a seed moisture, see where your seed moisture is at. If your seed moisture of your peas are, 14, 15%, then the survivability will be probably will be higher, because you don't have any damage to the seed going through your air delivery system on your seeder. If your seed is down to 10, 11%, then what I tend to tell growers is take about 100 seeds, throw them in a small container of water, a little pan of water, let them soak for 5 minutes, and look to see if there's any seed coat separation. If the seed coat looks like a little hangnail, looks like it's chipped, pull those out, do your counts, then it'll give you a bit of an idea. If you're over 10%, then you want to be bumping that up a little bit. So then maybe what you need to do is you need to decrease your survivability to factor in a bit more seed. So 85% should be good, but again, just make sure that if it's a new piece of equipment and you're not sure how it's going to handle the bigger seed, and just keep your air volumes down, and worst case scenario, bump your seeding rate up a little bit to compensate for that. So
Okay, great, Dennis. Oh, and is there an app for that, or is that just something you have to go online to do?
yeah, if you go to the Manitoba Agriculture website, and basically the easiest way to do it is just to Google Manitoba Agriculture Cost of Production, and in that crop section, you'll see the seeding rates calculator. There's an online version and there's an Excel version that you can use, but it's very handy because it can be used for multiple crops. You can use it for canola and for wheat, and then it gives you all that information. So it's really useful.
Yeah, no, it looks like a really good tool. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is this just got released, the Prairie Nutrient Removal Calculator, and Marla's on, and I just put a screenshot of what was there. I thought maybe Marla could quickly just go through this as well.
Yeah, thanks. I also found out that this got posted yesterday. And so we've been waiting for this one. John Hurd last week, I think, had hinted towards something that would be coming that I could be able to speak to. So this prairie nutrient removal calculator is something that was in the works, worked through with U of S, Fran Wally at the University of Saskatchewan. And there was plant samples being taken across the 3 prairie provinces, looking at total nutrient uptake or nutrient removal. So the removal rates would be what is taken out by the seed. Uptake, when we talk about nitrogen or nutrient uptake, we're talking about how much nutrient goes into the plant or the plant takes up through the growing season in order to grow. But what is removed ends up being the stuff that we're often replacing from year to year in new additions of fertilizer. So we've often used the old IPNI numbers. Now we have a new updated version that not only is focusing on prairie crops, but then also has new varieties, because obviously some of the new varieties have different nutrient removal rates. So this is great that we've got this new tool. So you can see when you go, if you are looking for it, all you have to do right now is Google Prairie Nutrient Calculator or Nutrient Removal Calculator, like put Prairie Nutrient Calculator, something like that in there, and it will pop up. You can also, we might be able to get Lori to add the link in the show notes afterwards. But if you go to crop type, you can choose cereals, oilseeds, and pulse crops. And then depending on what you've selected, the crops will come up. And then you basically just put in how many bushels per acre that you've been able to grow. And that is going to tell you what the nutrient removal, essentially it's on a per bushel basis. So then it becomes a pounds per acre removal rate, and it just gives you an idea of what that crop is taking up or removing from that field when you're doing some budgeting. Often really helpful for things like phosphorus, because it also gives you an idea of how much phosphorus is being taken out from a crop from one year to the next.
Great. Yeah, I found it yesterday and I went to the site and it actually works pretty slick. So yeah, you just pick your crop, put your bushels in, and all the numbers come up. So
yeah, super fast. I love it.
Great. Thanks, Marla. I'm not sure if John Gavlowski's on or not, but I had a producer call me and he said he was seeing flea beetles. So John, are you on? He might not be.
He is on, actually. I'll just click, see if he can unmute himself.
He is, hold on, he is right here. I've got him at my computer. So here's
Excellent.
John for you.
Flea beetles, yeah. Usually this time of year, we start to see the striped flea beetles coming out. They're the earlier species. So far, I haven't had many reports. I think emergence is just starting. It's been a bit cool. Normally, 14, 15 degrees is when the striped flea beetles start coming out. Today will be a good day for some to be emerging, but we'll see emergence happening over the next few weeks, really. First the stripes, then the crucifers. And usually that kicks off once we start getting above about 14 or 15, which is what we're just starting to get into right now. So over the next week or two, you will start to see more of the stripes and then the crucifers.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, no, this would have been in one of the warmer, kind of drier areas, and he just said that in sandy land, so it would have heated up a little bit faster. But he said he didn't see a lot, but they were just starting to show up. So, Marla, while you're still there, a question came up. How different did the nutrient removal numbers end up being from the IPNI numbers?
Good question. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to go in and compare the two, but it is something that I will likely do. I think that in some cases, what we were expecting to see or may have seen, and again, I need to confirm that. And actually, if you give me a second, I can open this up on my calculator, because my interest is actually in how similar the numbers are, specifically with regards to the canola. And that's one that is often a big phosphorus remover. And especially when we're talking about things related to, say, like manured lands, and looking at how much phosphorus is going to be taken up on manured lands, then that is where we end up seeing sometimes a bit of a difference, or like a high user essentially for something like canola. So let me just put this in. So they say, yeah, so they actually, as I kind of expected, the canola removal rates based on this calculator are actually lower than what the IPNI removal rates used to be.
Okay, significantly
Not surprising with some of the new hybrid varieties that they don't take up quite the same amount or remove the same amount in the seed.
Okay. Big difference, or?
Bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hold on, I can do the math on it. I have to do math fast. So yeah, down to closer to 0.8 pounds of P2O5 per bushel, and the old numbers used to be around 1 pound per bushel. So it's not an insignificant number. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Marla. Okay, just a few more slides. Field crop production guides I've been mentioning are available, and I'm not sure if Kim Brown is on today, but there's a weed ID, seedling ID day coming up in Brandon at the ACC. So is Kim on today?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, you bet, Kim. Yeah, I just thought I'd see if you wanted to mention anything about this.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Lionel. Yeah, Weed Seedling ID Day. We had done that for years and years in Carmen. Just finding it harder and harder to do that here, and so we are very lucky to be able to do that in conjunction with ACC on their North Hill campus. They have a really nice weed garden there. They've got a really nice greenhouse set up that they can grow the plants in. They've got a weed garden set up that's in really great shape. They've got annuals and perennials and biennials and all kinds of things in there. We don't have those facilities here in Carmen at all, so it's really great that we can partner with them. And so the date right now is planned for May 25th. If we have, I guess, some extreme weather in between now and then, that date might be moved up or moved back, but for now we're planning on that 25th. So it's free to attend. We encourage everybody to attend, and we'll be tweeting out and sending out more information as we get closer to that date.
Great, thanks, Kim.
Thanks.
Loria just sent me a text that there's been some calls coming in regarding the environmental farm plan and the BMPs. and what priority these BMPs are under. I guess Lori mentions that the answer is the priority one titled Climate Change and Environment, and then select the Sustainable Agriculture Manitoba Learn More option. I don't know if Jewel has any comments on that, if she's still on.
I'm still here. I'm sorry, what was the question exactly?
The question, what priority these BMPs are under?
Priority area?
Yeah,
It is, well, there's two main programs that producers will want to apply for. The Sustainable Agriculture Manitoba program and the RALP program. And those are both on our website, or you can go to manitobaefp.ca and there will be a table there with the different programs, links to apply and so forth.
Jewel, just to add, I just double checked because I was like, okay, wait, I know priority areas. I had to look at the website. So I've got the website open. And so it's climate change and the environment. I think if people are trying to navigate, so if you add the climate change and environment, and then that's where you'll find the RALP program, and then below that, Sustainable Agriculture Manitoba. So the Sustainable Agriculture Manitoba shows that cropland BMP listing. If you drop down the menu there, it takes you to that page.
Thanks, Marla.
great. Thanks, guys. And maybe just hold on one second. Comment from John Hurd. The new calculator reflects the nutrient efficiency of hybrids and practices. Big P difference for corn, canola, and soybeans. So thank you, John, for being on, and thanks for that input. I don't know if Marley, if you have any comments regarding that.
No, good to know that John Hurd hasn't fully gone off into the retirement home yet, and he's still available to field those answers for us. So thanks, John.
Great. Okay. Now to just continue on here, the crop production extension specialists. Again, if you've got questions as you're going through spring seeding here, feel free to contact any of these the specialists, and they'll be able to help you or get you in touch with some of our guys in Carmen that are always on to do and give us the answers too. So definitely give us a call. Our livestock people, again, their contact information, and we're getting closer to pasture season, and a lot of guys are calving and some breeding. So if you got questions regarding that, definitely give these people a call. Our service centers, their locations and their numbers. And again, as we're looking to, if you're getting into seeding and stuff, the crop production chemical guidebooks are there if you need one or want to pick one up. Hay listing, there's still a few people looking for hay, or a few people wanting to buy feed. So if you've got some for sale before we get into summer here, definitely check out that website. And that's it for today. I'd like to thank all our presenters and our panel. And if you got questions, there's mine and Lori's contact information. And join us for Crop Talk on May 10th. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more producers in the field. Some producers have started in some of the drier areas, and I think that's only going to continue with the weather they're forecasting. So thanks again for attending, and we will see you next week.